Mortgage Pros, good morning. Mike Fawaz with the Dial It Up with Fawaz. I'm really excited to come to you live this morning. I'm excited to kick off our podcast. I'm excited to start having conversations with industry experts, realtors, mortgage professionals, economists, things about the industry. But I'm truly honored to have my very first episode with Mark Z. And Mark, I know that we just met recently, but I've been thinking, like I've been watching you, and I've been watching you over the years, and it's really impressive. When I think about Mark Z, I think of over $1 billion in business in the last 10 years, 15 years in a business, 6,000 homes. You've built an incredible team, 120 plus team members, a number one real estate agent in Michigan, top 1% in the country. So it's really an honor to have you this morning here. Good morning, how are you, sir?
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been an overnight 22 years. Overnight success over 22 years, I guess you say, right? Yeah,
we call them 22 seasons in our world.
22 seasons, I like that.
Overnight.
Yeah.
So what I want to do, Marcus, so what we'll do is on this show is I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to focus a little bit at some of our audience are mortgage brokers and LOs, and with the market changing, there's a lot of interest in purchase business and realtors. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, but I also want to talk about Mark Z's keys to success, because you say overnight 22 years, but real talk, nothing happens overnight.
Right.
It's 22 years of blood, sweat, and tears. It's 22 years of dedication to build something very special. So I want to talk about that as well. But let's start with the theme. Let's start with the people that we have that are very interested in listening to one of the top real estate agents in the country. As I mentioned, Mark, a lot of brokers right now, mortgage brokers and a lot of LOs, they're focused on purchase business. We know the market transitioned. We don't market in the last couple of years. It was really heavy refi, and things were great. With the market changing, there's a lot of interest in purchase. People want to talk to realtors, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people walking into your office from an LO standpoint, having conversations, trying to figure out how to build relationships. So the first question for you is, like, from your standpoint, like, what is the best way for a loan officer to get their foot in the door and build that initial relationship with a realtor out there?
Yeah, great question, Mike. So, yeah, the industry, the entire industry is about to shift. At least that's what we're being told. That's what we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a long run. I mean, if you haven't been prepared for this, you got to be real new in the industry to not have seen this coming. In fact, I think it's lasted a lot longer than people thought. I mean, I've heard for the last 5 years that, rates are going to start going up, and, the refi boom is going to be done. I think we're going on about 12 years. The average bull run is usually 7, 8, if you're lucky, 10 years. So, I mean, it's been a long run, and people should have had a long time to prepare for this, right? Yeah, the refi boom it's done, right? I mean, this is your industry, not mine, but if that's your whole business is refinances, and you've never prepared for this day coming, I feel bad.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were just looking at stat earlier, me and you. In the last 10 years, at least every one of those last 10 years, we've seen interest rate in the threes. So, but this year, we saw interest rates go from 3% all the way to 5.5% and 6% in a very short period of time. And yes, we talked about it earlier. If you are a mortgage professional and you weren't prepared for this, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But also, we're mortgage folks, we're very busy, and it was great. We were enjoying the refi boom, and we were enjoying all this. And sometimes when you're running hard and you're making money, you're not focused on what you need to focus on. But again, I want to go back to, like, as a realtor, as a top realtor in the country, what can a LO do to separate themselves to get into the door of your office and start that initial relationship, start that relationship?
So look, it's not just a loan officer. This applies to pretty much every industry in the world. You've got to bring value, right? If you're just calling, begging for business, you're a commodity. You're just one of a million people calling me, asking for my business, right? What sets you apart? The fact that you want my business, I mean, that's great. I mean, I guess you set yourself apart the fact that you called, because most people don't even call, right? So that's great that you actually made the call and prospected and called a realtor. That is the first step. But you've got to bring value to realtors. And that's the question at the end of the day you've got to ask yourself is, what value am I bringing to this realtor? How am I going to get this realtor to use me and see the experience and see the service that I'm going to be able to provide? So how are you going to get your foot in the door? Well, number one, as a mortgage broker, you should have leads. You should have buyer leads, right? And if a mortgage broker calls me with a buyer lead or a buyer that's pre-approved, I'm not going to be able to turn that down, right? That's business for me. It's business for him. I'd be crazy to, right? And no realtor is. You've got a buyer, and that buyer needs a realtor. That's a win-win. So first of all, you've got to be in the business of being able to generate leads. If you can't generate leads for yourself, you're probably in the wrong business. You signed up for sales, whether it's mortgages, whether it's insurance, stockbroker, real estate agent, whatever it is. You got in that business because you need to be getting on the phones and you need to be prospecting. You guys have an abundance of leads. You guys are, you guys are very lucky. The fact that you guys you have no shortage of leads, right? So you've got to be able to get your foot in the door with a realtor, and you're going to be able to do that by bringing them leads, by bringing them value. What else are you doing besides bringing them leads? But once you do bring them a lead, they're going to be able to experience the service that you're going to be able to provide. So that's how you're going to get your foot in the door.
Okay.
What else are you doing though? Are you doing open houses with them? Are you providing flyers for their open houses? What are you doing to make that realtor's life easier? And so those are the things that you need to be asking yourself rather than just calling and begging for the business.
So I wrote down 3 things. Leads.
Yeah.
If you're a mortgage professional and you have access to leads, you absolutely should be getting a hold of the realtor saying, hey, listen, I have a pre-approved lead here. I have a pre-approved client. Let's work together. 2, I put down service, because absolutely service matter. Also open houses. I really think that's a big deal. Like a lot of folks, I don't want to speak for the entire mortgage industry, but a lot of folks miss that part. Like, how do I get in with a realtor? Call a realtor, say, I know you have an open house on the weekend. I'd love to join you. I'd love to be there with you. Also, you mentioned something very important, marketing. How do you make the realtor's life easier? Marketing. I think those are great tips. Thanks.
The industry in general has things that we never had 20 years ago. I've been in the business 22 years now. God, I wish I had what...
You started when you were 10.
Pretty much. But I wish I had the tools that people have now. They have what's called social media, right?
Yeah.
It costs nothing. It's effort. But you got to be consistent. Everybody wants to be a social influencer, but they're not consistent, right? It's just like when I have realtors that get on the radio, and then they come back and they tell me 3 months later, oh, radio doesn't work, or they do postcards. I ask them, how long have you been sending out postcards? They said, 6 months, I never got nothing. Guess what? It took me 3 years before I even broke even on farming a subdivision with postcards. So I'm glad that things take long, otherwise everybody would be doing it, but nobody's consistent enough. We're in a world right now, I call it the microwave world, because everybody wants everything like that.
Right,
and if it's not fast, it's not quick, the grass is green on the other side, they jump ship. And every time you jump ship, you're starting over. Whether you go from a mortgage broker to another industry, or you keep switching from company to company, you're starting over, you're distracting your clients, they don't even know where you're at, they don't even know what you're doing. So you got to be consistent. But with social media right now, what kind of value are you putting out there for A, clients to be able to attract buyers, and B, to realtors? And you have that opportunity with social media to be in front of thousands of people every single day if you're putting out enough content, and content is king. If you look at most of the all social media influencers, they're putting out a lot of content. Some of them put out 2-3 videos a day, and they do it every single day. They're not putting out 2-3 videos and then you see them a week later, 2 weeks later. I mean, some of these guys, without dropping names, but you know who they are. They're putting out content, like multiple videos every single day. Now, why can't you do that? You can, right? It's going to take work. It's going to take effort. Same thing with working out. People say, I don't got time. What are you doing at 5:30 in the morning? You're sleeping, right? So there's always time of the day. I was talking to guys in your lobby today. He killed me. He said, I get up at 2:30 in the morning every day.
Yeah.
I said, what? I thought I was one of the earliest. I get up about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning every day. 2:30 in the morning, he just beat me, right? So he's getting about, I said, what time you go to sleep? He said 11. Like, wow, I'm not suggesting that. I mean, that's only 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
but,
he's a 3-4 hours of sleep guy.
yeah, I mean, that's nuts. That's, over the top, but great. But why can't you do this every single day? There's no excuse with social media these days why you can't be putting out content. And content is value, right? You're going to attract people. You're going to position yourself as an expert, and you're going to start attracting an audience. Everybody has an audience. You just don't know who your audience is until you start putting out content consistently. So why can't every mortgage broker, you can, why can't you put out content every single day bringing value to clients and to realtors? You could. Very few do, though. Go online, go on Instagram, and tell me how many mortgage brokers you see that are putting out content every single day. And if they are, put out twice a day, 3 times a day. Crush your competition. It's a war out there. You got to beat your competition.
You're spot on, Mark. Look, I'll tell you, I started getting into this whole social media thing about 1.5 years ago, and I can tell you guys, it is not easy. To Mark's point, it's not easy. Consistency is not easy. You got to create material every single day, and you got to do videos, and you got to come up with videos, and you got to work on scripting, and you got to think about like how do you attract audience and how do you attract people. It's not easy, but again, I've only been doing social media for 1.5 years. I know you're big on social media, but I am starting to see the results. I'm communicating with brokers on social media. I have brokers reaching out to me, asking me questions. But it is, to Mark's point, it's not easy. But nothing's easy in life. Like if you want to accomplish things and you want to do great at things, you got to work hard. And this is an easy way. Like social media is like it's a cheat code. It's easy, it's free, it's available for you, but you got to push hard and you got to be very, very consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So listen. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's
So we talked about like, okay, NLO, a mortgage broker getting their foot in the door, leads, marketing, flyers, open houses, social media, all that stuff. Once you get your foot in the door, right? Like I'm now an NLO, I called you, gave you a lead, we worked together, service was good, all that stuff. Once you get your foot in the door, like what are the keys to ensure and maintain that business, that relationship, and what do you look for after that first initial transaction from a mortgage broker, from an LO, from a loan officer?
Well, look, unless you're, the inventor of Apple and you created the iPhone or Android and you've created something that nobody else has, there's a million mortgage brokers out there. There's a million realtors out there. What's going to set you apart is service, right? That Disney experience. You never say no to your clients. I tell my realtors all the time, you never say no. Whatever they want, you do it. You find a way to get it done. So it's service, right? I want my clients taken care of because when you give a referral, that referral is either going to make or break you, right? There's been many times I've given somebody a plumber and all of a sudden they call me up. That plumber was the worst plumber in the world and they're mad at me. I'm like, I'm sorry. It was just you asked me for somebody to give you a referral, but it's a bad reflection on me. So that could make or break my relationship if I refer a mortgage broker and that relationship goes sour between that person and my client. So service has obviously got to be on point. But then after the fact, stay in touch with that client because eventually that client is going to buy another house, right? Or they're going to refer friends and family to that mortgage officer. When they do, if that mortgage officer is helping me stay in contact with that client, again, they're bringing value to my world, right? Because I can only stay in contact with so many different people and I can only do so much in my world with the amount of clients that we have. So if that mortgage broker is staying in touch with that client, giving them great service, getting referrals, and bringing business back to me again, it's a win-win. They get the mortgage side, we get the real estate side. And you do this enough times, that realtor is going to find value in you and going to continue using you.
Yeah, service, communication, keys. Speaking of communication, Mark, look, everyone operates in a different way and they want to be communicated with in a different way. For you, like, what's your favorite communication method between an LO and yourself? Like, how do you want them to communicate with you, especially if there's a loan in process? Is it email? Is it phone? Is it text? Like, and how often?
Yeah, I think once a week. We've got closing coordinators who do a lot of that legwork for us now just because of the amount of volume we do. But Email, text, getting on the phone is hard these days because, conversations take a lot longer than, a 1 minute text or email, but that seems to be the most preferred method of communication these days.
Okay. Yeah. Once a week. I know there's a lot of questions on that. By the way, we have a ton of folks watching. If you have any questions, please pop them on the screen. We'll be more than happy to answer. Rachel, if we could scroll up, I saw a question from Nathan Kyle. Nathan Kyle is one of our divisional vice presidents at Rockborough TPO. Here's a question for you, Mark. What sets you apart and what is your value?
Yeah, what sets us apart is service, just like I was telling you guys. Anybody can go out and show a home and turn a key, but, our agents are scripted. They're on the phones all day long prospecting. They're looking for buyers for their sellers. They're looking for sellers for our buyers that are out there looking. Everyone's inventory short right now, right? So we've got to go above and beyond. We're bringing for sale by owners and expired listings together. Again, whatever I'm saying, we practice what we preach, and we're big proponents of being on the phone and doing what you signed up to do in this industry, and that's prospect for business. So at the end of the day, we can keep circling around the big elephant in the room, but you got to get on the phones and you've got to prospect. You've got to make that face-to-face connection with realtors, and the only way you're going to do that is getting on the phone and setting up appointments.
We have a saying here: the loans are in the phones.
Yeah.
You got to get on the phone. You got to speak to people. That's part of what you signed up for.
Yeah.
You got to prospect. We're in sales.
Yeah.
If you're not on the phones or you're not having conversations, I don't know what else you'd be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question for you, Mark. And I just want to go back to just the realtor and mortgage broker relationship. Most of our audience are mortgage brokers, so they're so interested in knowing a lot about how does a realtor think, and especially now, I'm assuming, you guys are like, we were talking about 2 years ago, refinance. I feel like the realtors didn't feel the love as much as they should have. I'm assuming you're feeling the love a lot right now from mortgage brokers. They're in your office, you do business with them, and you did your first deal, you feel good about it, you saw their service, and things are going well. Question that comes to mind a lot is like, you are working with some mortgage folks right now. You do business with
Sure.
them. What are a couple of things that they are doing different? Like, is it like from a marketing standpoint? Are they helping you with video Like, what are they doing different for Mark C to say, you know what, I'm working with these folks and I'm gonna send business to them? Like, how are they setting themselves apart with you in particular?
They're in front of our realtors. They're part of our company events. They come to the office. They're part of the culture, right? This is a relationship-based business, and so aside from delivering great service, aside from being there when we need them, if I was going to be completely transparent, I think Rocket maybe has, in the realtor world, Rocket maybe has a reputation of being too big for its own good. Does that make sense? Where, if there's a problem, you can't get a hold of the loan officer because you have to go through 10 other loan officers. So again, it comes down to service, right? You've got to be there for your realtor. You've got to be that point of contact. They should be able to get a hold of you. There's been times where I've done deals with Rocket, and it wasn't the easiest. My preferred loan officer, you can call and he's on speed dial. He's text. I can just get a hold of him right away. So you've got to be able to, the path of least resistance has got to be just quick, right? I've got to be able to get a hold of my loan officer if something's going sour, if something's going wrong, there's an appraisal question. So communication is just, it's key. You can't be so big. I just had a customer complaint a week ago, and I seen it come across the email, and I called the client right away. And he said he almost fell out of his chair because I called him. He's like, I can't believe you called me. I thought I was going to call the secretary and they were going to tell me this and that, and I thought you were just a pretty face on the billboard. That's all the things he told me, right? Perception is reality. And sometimes we get so big as a company that we lose that face-to-face, that communication that we had when we were smaller.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you brought it up. I know we talked about it earlier too. We're talking about Rocket as a company because yes, Rocket is so big, but we talked about it, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but it's important, right, for our audience. Rocket is very big, but we're also We're all about the personal service, and we have thousands of brokers across the country that work with Rocket, and they deliver value to real estate offices in their community every single day. And to your point, like, we're so passionate about communication, and that's why I've been asking you questions about, like, how do you like to communicate it? Because sometimes I get feedback that we over communicate, and in my opinion, that's great. Continue doing that. Do more of that, because that's how you show value, and people want to know what's going on with their loan. So yes, we have thousands of brokers across the country. As a matter of fact, just a little plug for Rocket Pro TPO. We're so passionate about the purchase business in particular, because we also see the market changing to where we've rolled out a product, we rolled out a program called Fast 15, where we can get your purchase buyer from start to clear to close within 15 days.
Wow.
And if we don't get them to the closing, clear to close within 15 days, your borrower gets $2,500. And we've had it for $2,500.
Wow.
And we've had that for 3 months now. And guess what? The feedback's been incredible from the broker community. And it's a way, by the way, I have a lot of brokers that use that as a marketing tool to get into offices.
Sure.
Realtor offices, saying, hey, I have a guarantee, clear to close, I'll get you there in 15 days. If I don't, your borrower will get $2,500.
That's huge, especially in getting your offer accepted.
Yeah.
That could set you apart. You know, sellers want quick closing, especially right now. Everyone feels like this market is like, you know, on the cusp of correcting or shifting. You know, if you can tell the seller, hey, we're going to close in 15 days, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
That's great.
We have a question out there from one of our leaders as well, which is good. I have my leaders on here. When a broker attends an open house with a realtor, what kind of things do you expect out of a mortgage broker? It's a good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Well, I would assume if you're going to be there at an open house, you'd be able to get buyers pre-approved right there on the spot. You should be able to have all the tools, you know, and that would be something that the realtor should be advertising, is that buyers can get pre-approved right then and there, right? So that'd be great. How about some information on the area? Put together a nice package. You know, as far as you know, if you're doing an open house in Northville, you know, things on where the local schools are, you know, local amenities, coffee shops, all that kind of stuff. And then you know, maybe some goodies. You know, some cookies, some drinks. You know, some things to make the open house you know, a little bit nicer experience.
Do your homework. Be prepared. And make sure that you're in front of the buyers and you're having conversations and you show confidence in what you have to offer.
Yeah, help that realtor market that open house. Again, bring value, show that realtor. If you're in the mortgage business, you're really in the marketing business, right? Don't think of yourself as a mortgage broker. You know, I know Rocket Homes prides themselves. You guys are a technology company. You don't look at yourself as, hey, we just write loans and close deals, right? You're a technology company. You're a marketing company. There's so much more to it, and you've got to look at yourself as much bigger than just a mortgage broker.
Yeah, you're spot on. Listen, we have a ton of brokers that are watching right now. So if you have any questions from an LO standpoint and the relationships or anything on your mind, please hit us up on Facebook, send questions, text me questions. I know I just saw my phone, we have a couple of questions, but I want to switch up a little bit. And I'm really, really interested in this part of the conversation. 22 seasons.
Yeah.
Right? And 22 seasons to build where you're at. And real talk, Mark, like, you're everywhere, my friend. Billboards everywhere. I see you everywhere. And you've built that reputation. No matter who I speak to, there's that reputation of Mark Z delivers. You have that Mark Z guarantee, and you stand behind it. And I know it's not easy. Like, this is not easy. Like, we know that this didn't come, like, this didn't happen. Like, this wasn't a coincidence. So I want to talk a little bit about your keys to success, and we'll start with philosophy, right? Like, first of all, what is your philosophy as a team leader? Because you have a team. What's your philosophy as a team leader, as someone that has human beings to work with them on a daily basis? What's Mark Z's philosophy in life?
Philosophy, you got to come in, you got to be consistent. It's all about that morning schedule. That's what I found, right? If that morning schedule is off, the entire day is off. But if you nail that morning schedule every single day, you know, mine is, you know, it used to be from 7 in the morning, I had to be in the office. And you got to be accountable, right? It's hard in this industry to be accountable because you're an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You work for yourself. So you look yourself in the mirror every single day, and that's how you judge your results. So you got to be in the office every single day, and you got to nail that morning. If you nail that morning, meaning you're looking for new business every single day for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Mine was 8 hours a day. If I wasn't prospecting on the phones, I was on an appointment. Literally 8 hours a day of cold calling, expired listings of for sale by owners. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. I'm not kidding. And there's people in the office that are still in the industry today that could attest to this, that work side by side with me. But 8 to 10, 12 hours. At 8 a.m. I was on the phones because legally you can't get on the phones before 8 a.m. So I'd start at 8 a.m. And if I wasn't on an appointment, I'd be on the phones, dialing for dollars, expired listings for sale by owners. And that's what I did 8 to 10 hours a day every single day. And that was my routine. Prospecting for new business and following up with leads. That's really the business we're in. So if you're not doing that, again, what are you doing all day long? So consistency every single day. It's repetitious boredom, right? I mean, I'm not saying it was the funnest thing in the world, but it does get addicting once you start seeing the results.
I wrote down 3 words: hustle, discipline, consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, look, I mean, it's easy to say, hey, I prospected for 8 hours, Mark, but 8 hours is a long time.
It's a long time.
And it's a lot of phone calls. And I'm sure 8 hours consist of way more no's than yes, and sometimes probably no yes in the entire day.
Yeah. But, the funny part is we hire people to do this as a job, right? And, when they're W-2 employees and we pay them, they have no choice but to come in and perform this every single day. But as soon as they turn into a realtor or a mortgage officer where, they can do whatever they want, it stops because nobody's holding them accountable. If we could fire every single person who didn't come in and do what they were supposed to do, everybody would be millionaires, right? Because they know if they don't come in and do it, they're going to get fired. But the fact that they can't be fired stops them and prevents them from their own success, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. Question for you, because look, in 22 years, you've seen a lot. And I'm sure you've met a lot of folks and you've had a ton of conversations. What is the best professional advice you've ever been given?
Gosh, best professional advice I've ever been given. Man.
On the spot.
On the spot, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've got to go with, does it go back to consistency? Doing the same things every single day. I mean, when I think about my business, I pretty much do the same things every single day, but that compound effect of building the same thing there's nothing more powerful than compounding interest, right? You keep building and building and building. That little build every single day adds up to something huge at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And at the end of 22 years, you've got past clients who keep coming back. Most people get out of the business, I find, within 2-3 years, which is great for us because they lose all the past clients and the referrals. After you've been in the business 22 years, if we're going to close 1,000 deals this year, more than half that business is repeat clients. Referrals, right? And that business comes free because people come back because of the service that you gave them, or they refer business to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So people say, how can you afford to do the billboards, the TV, the radio? Well, that's being in the business for 22 years. How many people that have been in the industry for 20 years and they're not successful?
Yeah, you're right.
If you've been a painter, if you've been a plumber, you've done anything for 20 years, an insurance agent, you've been an insurance agent for 20 years, you've got a hell of a book of business, right? But how many people do you run into that can say that I've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years? They don't. Everybody's job hopping, everyone's looking for something new, something better. And they just don't stay with the same thing and build upon that. But, if half my business is 500 clients, if I get 500 clients that are past clients or referrals, and that business doesn't cost me anything, that allows me to spend the money. Think about it. If I get 500 past clients a year, that doesn't really cost me much. Think about that advantage that I have over the average realtor. How are they going to be able to afford to do and spend $20,000, $30,000 a month on radio when I know that those leads cost me $1,000 to $1,500 a person? You're a realtor coming into the business. You can't do that. You'll go broke.
Absolutely not.
I can do that though because $500,000, I'm generating $3-4 million in commissions for free, and that allows me to go out and buy additional business that probably the average realtor can't afford to buy, but I can because I've been in the business so long and I got that past client referral business, which allows me to set myself apart and build a brand.
Just want to touch on, because you're spot on, but I want to touch on this because it's important that the audience hear this. You'll get referrals based on the service you provide. You'll get referrals based on what you do with your clients. a lot of people can be in a business for 10 years and 15 years, but I promise you, they won't see the level of referrals that Mark's talking about if their service wasn't there and if you weren't available. We talk a lot with, especially in my world, we talk a lot with our account executives about availability. When someone calls you, you pick up. When someone needs you, you pick up. And you get those referrals because of those actions.
Yeah, it sounds so simple. You pick up when someone calls. I mean, how impossible is it in today's world to actually get a hold of somebody? It's almost like when someone does answer, you're like shocked.
Cell phone, watch, it's everywhere.
Right? So I think, one of the questions says, what value do you bring your clients in order to get referrals in business? Well, listen, with social media, it's easy to stay in front of people these days. That's something that we never had, back in the day. That makes it a lot easier. But number two, are you calling them and asking them for referrals? People got all these hangups. Oh, I don't want to call them. It makes me look desperate. I don't want to bother them. I mean, I don't look at that as desperation if someone called and asked me for a referral. Right?
They know you're in the business. They get it. They understand. Like, your clients know that, hey, I'm in the mortgage business. I'm in the real estate business. If I call you and ask you for referrals, because that's my livelihood. I'm in this business, so it makes sense.
I mean, if someone asked you for a granite referral and you had a guy who did granite in your house, don't you feel like it's a win-win? You hooked up the granite guy. He gave you great service, great price. Everything was great. You're hooking him up. And then you're hooking your friend up because you're giving him a great provider.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like a win-win. I mean, would you be mad if your granite guy called you once a quarter or once a month and said, hey, Mike, I know you got a lot of friends, family. You know anybody that's doing any remodeling? Would you be mad?
I would absolutely pick up, and if I knew someone, I would give them a referral.
Absolutely. Sure. Top of mind, right? Because he asked for the business. And you'd be surprised how many times you call and ask for the business, and usually they'll tell you, nah, I don't know anybody. I can't think of anyone. Okay, great. You hang up. Within a month later, it's weird, but they'll call you with a referral because you got in their head. Yeah. You asked for the business. So now they're out there looking for business for you because they know you, like you, and trust you already.
And Mark, I'll tell you, like, I've received referrals. I wanted to wrap my car.
Yeah.
And I
know a great rap guy, by the way.
Yeah, but I also just found a great rap guy.
Yeah.
But here's what happened. I looked around and I Googled a bunch of folks, and
sure.
and then I realized that one of our executive VPs here, Jason Pace, he knows, he likes cars, he does allow his cars. So I asked him, I said, Jason, do you know someone? He put me in a text message with a guy. I literally didn't even ask any questions. I said, when can I drop it off? Right. I didn't even ask how much it costs. Right. I trusted Jason, knowing that he knows he's going to refer me someone that he trusts. And it was an easy trip. I didn't have to worry about it. Right. They picked up the car, they dropped it off, and it was great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A referral. But you can't be shy about asking about referrals. We have Summer Corey. By the way, she just texted me a question. She's one of our mortgage brokers out there, I believe in Northville, Summer. And here's her question. As a broker and my 20 years of experience, I've stacked buyers who can win, who can't. I have a list of buyers who can't win a bid. I literally have almost 100 pre-approvals. What is setting the offers apart, taking it to the next level to get a buyer a win?
Yeah, great question, especially in this market, right? Again, it's relationship based. So if you're a newer realtor and you don't have relationships, I mean, I can't tell you how many realtors call me, to get their offers accepted. You can't just submit an offer and not call the realtor. I don't care if you got to go to their office. I don't care if you got to text them, call them, email them. You've got to have that conversation with that realtor, and you've got to be able to assure that realtor that you know what you're doing. You're going to get this to the finish line, because at the end of the day, all that the listing agent wants is to make sure that this deal is going to close. Right? So whether you're the loan officer, I mean, I'm even getting texts, calls, and emails from the loan officer on a deal assuring me that, hey, this buyer's in good hands. I'm going to get this to the closing table. So as a mortgage broker, you can help your buyer's agent, your realtor, out by making that call or sending an email, getting in front of that listing agent and assure them that you're a mortgage broker who knows what they're doing and you're going to get this to the finish line. That's going to make me feel, as a listing agent, that's going to make me feel secure that I'm going to be able to tell my seller we're going to get to the closing table, because the last thing anybody wants is you gave me the pre-approval, you told me everything was great, and then at the last minute you give me some surprise. That's not acceptable to me. Should have done your homework up front. You should have made sure and explained to your buyer not to go out and purchase a new car, 5 days before closing. You should have done all that before we got to the closing table. So, make that extra effort, get in touch with that listing agent. You've got to have that conversation. You'd be surprised how many offers we get, and the realtor never even reached out to us.
No
And
follow.
no follow-up. They just sent it over. I mean, we're looking at 5, 10, 15 offers on every listing. And you just sent over an offer? I mean, that doesn't make me feel secure. Right? I want that realtor that's practically begging for the deal. Like, I know they're aggressive. I know they're going to educate their buyer through inspection and not have the deal blow up because the GFI was popped or they found a little bit of mold that needs to be remediated. I want to know that that buyer agent's on top of their game. So, that's important.
Yeah, look, speaking of pre-approvals, I'll tell you, that's why we at Rocket Pro TPO, we're so passionate about fully approving someone up front, making sure that when our brokers are coming out to you and to any realtor, we have a solid pre-approval. We make sure that your folks, your sellers get the confidence. I'll tell you, Mark, and I know you spoke about like you're surprised sometimes the realtors don't make a call when they submit an offer. I was just having a conversation last week with one of our brokers, and I was looking at this broker's product mix, business mix, and they were 85% purchase, which is great, incredible in this market. And I started asking questions like, "Hey, why are you doing so good?" And one of the best things that I've heard from this broker, and I'll share it with everyone here, is he said, "Listen, man, I take this very serious. I actually do the realtor's job." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" He's like, "Every single time my realtor calls me and says, 'Hey, we just submitted an offer,' or even if they don't call me, I've trained them to tell me that, 'Hey, Mike Fawaz, I'm about to submit an offer to Mark Z on listing 123 Main, and the offer will be in their inbox in an hour.'" So what I do as a broker is I actually call Mark Z and I introduce myself. "Hey, it's Chanel Shaba, Summer Corey, one of our brokers, and I am calling you in regards to this offer you just received. I am the loan officer. I want to walk you through the buyer. I want to walk you through their what they qualify for, and I want to walk you through everything about this buyer to make sure I give you the confidence.'" Actually, I want to prop out the guy that gave me that tip. It's one of our partners, which is Francis. He owns a company called Power Mortgage, and it was incredible. I love that.
Francis Abu?
Yeah, Francis Abu. He's
Great
making
mortgage
that
broker.
call. He's making that call to the realtor. How much value do you see in that?
Let me tell you this. If you know anything about our brand, it's always to set ourselves apart, right? You see my signs, you got the big Z on there. Everything's, big and standing out and making ourselves look different. And that's what we pride ourselves on is you don't want to be average. You don't want to blend in with the rest of the crowd. You don't want to blend in with the rest of the realtors, mortgage brokers. You want to be different. If we're gonna get 1,000 deals done this year, my team, I'll tell you that maybe 5 of them, I'll hear from a mortgage broker on the pre-approval before we accept an offer. It does not happen. It does not happen. If I had a mortgage broker that was hounding me down, I mean, to me, that offer is going to stand out because I know behind that buyer, which in reality, what's the buyer? The buyer's not, it's the mortgage broker. He's the one that controls my destiny on whether I get to the closing table or not. The buyer is just a pawn, right? That's just the chip that you move across the table. But it's the mortgage broker that controls my destiny, controls my commission check, controls my seller's, next chapter in their life. It's that mortgage broker. So to hear from that mortgage broker, wow. Now you talk about value? That'd be a huge value if I knew as a realtor that my mortgage broker was going to call that agent, somehow, some way, going to get in touch with that listing agent and put in a plug to accept this offer because we're going to get you to the closing table.
Yeah.
Now you're talking value. That's huge.
Yeah.
And it never happens. I'm telling you,
crazy.
Very rare does that ever happen.
I'm telling you guys, like, seriously, and Francis was mentioning, like, he's won offers. He actually called one of his realtors, and I heard the conversation. He's won offers where they weren't the highest offer, but he's won offers because he literally walked the seller's agent through the entire financial situation of that buyer and gave them that confidence that this is a deal that will close. Here's what we've done to qualify them. Here's what we've done to get them there. And here's what we've done to make sure that we're giving you a real offer, an offer that will close, an offer that will get to the closing table in 15 days.
Yeah, that's value again. That's setting yourself apart because that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question for you. Like I talk a lot with mortgage brokers, and especially in this market, things are slower. So folks are working on building their teams. It's an opportunity to focus on the things that you haven't gotten a chance to focus on in the last couple of years because you've been running hard. And a lot of folks want to build teams of 15 and 20 and 30. And Mark, you've built a team of 120 plus individuals. And I have a saying. I will say, like, when people ask me what do you do at Rocket, I say I work with the human beings. I work for the human beings that work with us every day.
Sure.
I don't call them team members. I don't think about them as numbers. They're human beings. They have families. They have husbands and wives and sisters and mothers. You've built an incredible team. Walk me through, like how do you, if I'm a broker that wants to start today, what are some of the key things that you need to focus on to build that family, the Mark Z family that you have today in your office?
Yeah, so first of all, it's kind of like having your own family at home, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to start thinking about starting a family if you can't even support yourself, right? So first of all, you've got to be able to have enough business that you can actually start supporting other people, because I look at my team as my family, right? As soon as you bring on another team member, as a leader, you have to worry about them more than you worry about yourself. In fact, I worry about my team members more than I worry about myself. And sometimes I feed them before there's many months in the year where I take an L.
Yeah.
I have to dip into my personal bank account in order to pay the bills because, this business, it's seasonal. But my realtors, like I say, they get paid before I get paid, right? The commission check comes in, they're getting their half. I get mine, I have to go pay the bills, and then if there's something's left over, I get paid. So you got to have that mentality as a leader that you got to look out for them before you look out for yourself. So number one, before you even start thinking about a team, is you have to make sure that you actually are confident enough that you're going to be able to support that team. And so that goes back to, do you know how to lead generate? Are you willing to prospect? Are you willing to get on the phones? Are you willing to bring in enough business that you don't just have to worry about yourself, but you're able to support your other team members? So you can't create a team. Everybody wants to start a team today, but you can't create a team unless you've mastered the business of lead generation. And so, where does that come from? Well, social media, you can buy leads. When I started, I didn't have the money to buy any leads. So I had to get on the phones, which is free. Again, it comes down to effort. Same thing with social media, that's free. It doesn't cost any money. That's just you putting the time in. So you've got to learn to lead generate before you can start building a team.
Yeah, look, great advice. You're spot on. You talked about, like, hey, I worry about them before I worry about myself. They're part of family. And I always say, like, if you want to be a leader and you want to build a team, you got to lead by example.
Yeah.
You got to do the things that you're asking them to do. So similar to what you're saying, like, hey, in your world, people are prospecting all day. But I promise you, they're prospecting all day because they know that Mark Z can get on the phone and prospect for 8 hours and have no issues with it. And you're more probably doing it right in front of them, so you can lead by example and you're in the trenches with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you guys are blessed because you guys lead by example because you guys blow everybody away as far as lead generation goes.
Yeah.
Right? You guys have, that's all you guys do is lead generate. Right, so you guys have mastered that. But as far as your loan officers goes and the brokers that utilize you guys' service, you've got to learn to lead generate before you can start building out that team. It used to be buying the refinance leads. Now you guys are back to bread and butter, which is the purchase.
Refi.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, Mark, we do things a little bit different here. This Dial It Up with Fawaz podcast will be different. We didn't start with some information about you, like talk to us about yourself, but we're gonna end with that. I want people on this live feed. They're watching you. They've heard from you for the last 45 minutes to get to know you a little bit. You talked about, like, your routine. You have a daily routine. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're married. You have kids, and walk us through your daily routine.
Yeah, outside of work, it's work and family, right? I got 3 kids, beautiful wife, been married a long time, and my besides work, I come home and it's all about the wife and kids, and you got to give them the attention that they deserve. I don't believe there's a perfect balance. As much as I want to be balanced, it's hard, right? Something's going to give. If you're going to be highly successful, you're going to have to probably put in more time than being balanced 50-50. Something's going to have to give. So, 22 years later, now I'm able to step back, and I've learned to, leverage my time through my team members. With over 100 team members, everyone says, oh, everyone's got the same amount of time. No, I don't have the same amount of time as the average person. I've got maybe 400 hours in a week where the average person might have 40 because I have other people that I'm able to, leverage my time with. So that allows me to get into the investment world. It's not always about how much you make.
Yeah.
It's about what you do with that money, right? So a lot of the things that I can do with my marketing dollars and the brand is because over the years I've invested the money and, bought a lot of real estate, investment properties, and that allows me to sleep at night because this industry is it's always changing, always revolving. You got to live below your means because we're all entrepreneurs and we start over every single month. No matter how great that last month was, this month I start over again.
Every day you start over.
Every single day.
Morning. Every single morning.
I wake up.
Doesn't matter
at
what you did yesterday.
It doesn't matter.
I used to have a leader. His name is Marshall Kutz. He's actually one of our brokers.
Yeah.
And every morning, I was a director under him. He would say, "Hey, how was your day yesterday?" I would say, "We had an incredible day."
Yeah.
He's like, "Guess what? You started 0 today."
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Every day you start at 0. So it's like I said, you got to live below your means. Invest, right? If you're just living for today, you're not saving money, you're not getting, residual money. Do a lot of multifamily, a lot of, I want a return on all my money rather than just, make it and put it in the bank. Cash is trash, right? Just sitting there doing nothing, especially in today's world where, inflation's up to 7-8%. That means whatever money you have sitting around, you just lost 8% this year if it's just sitting around. So if you're not doing something with your money, you need to be earning at least 8 to 10% on your money so you can build that passive income. And that's what allows me to do a lot of the crazy marketing and spend a lot of the money that I spend is because not so much that the business is the most profitable business in the world, because as you build a team, you actually start making less and you have to bank on volume, right? So if my profit margins before were 50-60%, now my profit margin might be 15%. So I've got to do a lot more volume.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, last night on the way back from New York, maybe I was talking to you a little bit on social media.
Yeah.
I was watching your videos, and you talked about investment. You actually said that at one point you had 45 paid off homes.
Yep.
Investment.
Yep.
And one of your regrets is that you left that cash in those homes and you didn't pull the money and invested in more. And you talk there's one of your videos where you talk about cash versus mortgage. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back, I thought I was king of the hill. I had 45 single family homes that I accumulated that were all paid off, and they were making a lot of money. And I thought, wow, I just did everything right. I got them all paid off. It's great. But I was sitting on $10 million in equity.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought that was the right thing to do. I finally paid everything off because, you grow up thinking, no debt. You want to pay everything off and save your money, save your money, save. That's what I was brainwashed, My dad's like your dad, came from the old country.
Yeah.
And, save your money, rainy days, save your money. That's what gave them security is how much money you have in the bank. Right? Like my dad still, he's like, why are you buying this? Why are you buying this? Don't you have enough? Don't you? But that money's sitting in the bank. Like, look, if you got 10 million sitting in the bank, I always have that worry that you could blow through that money. Right? There's going to come a time where if you just keep spending that money every year, $300,000-400,000 a year, you're going to eventually blow through it.
Yeah.
So rather than have 10 million in the bank, I'd rather have investments that are bringing me $300,000 a year. Why? Because I'm going to get that every single year, and I'm never going to have to worry about blowing through that pile. That pile is going to eventually diminish if you're not getting residual income every month. So I took those 45 single family homes. I sold them all. I think I have 3 left now. I've sold them all. I took that 10 million. In this country, you can pretty much buy anything you want with 20-25% down.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I took that 10 million and I used that money to accumulate $50 million worth of real estate. So think about it. I had 10 million in single family homes. I sold that $10 million and bought $45-50 million worth of real estate. And now I'm using the bank's money. I'll pay that off eventually in 15-20 years, and now I'll have 50 million rather than that 10 million that was sitting in those homes.
And when you think about it, the bank's money, it's not like even the rates of 5 and 6%, that's nothing.
It's still cheap. I mean, when I first started investing, 17, 18 years ago, I was paying 7-8%. I wasn't even cash flowing. I remember my first house I bought in Commerce. It was $180,000, and I was getting $1,400 a month in rent. I was not cash flowing. In fact, there's some months I was losing money if there was a repair. But I didn't care. In my mind, I was thinking, let me just pay it down, keep paying it down, equity. And, it worked out. After 3 years, I took that money out, the equity that was there. I took about $30,000 out, and I bought another house. So now I had 2 houses I was paying down, and then 2-3 years later, I built up enough equity, and then I took 30 and 30 out. So then I took that money out and I bought 2 more homes, and that's what I kept doing. So yeah, I mean, even at 5%, it's all relative because rates are up, but rent's up too.
Absolutely.
So it goes hand in hand. So even though rates are up, it still makes sense. Maybe not right now to buy single family homes because if the market does shift, you're probably going to be able to get those a little bit cheaper.
For sure. Great tip. Thank you, Mark. Listen, I loved our conversation. It's always great to have a conversation with you and talk about the business and just philosophy and leadership. What is one last advice or like maybe final words for our viewers? We're talking about new LOs, new real estate agents, folks that are trying to build their career, start a career. What is like one advice or final words that you would give to our audience?
Goes back to the compound effect. You might not think that prospecting for an hour a day is doing much, but an hour a day is 5 hours a week, and that's 250 hours in a year. Imagine if you did it for 2 or 3 hours. It's a contact sport. You got to get out there. You got to talk to realtors because you're either going to stay in this business in the next year or 2, or you're going to get squeezed out. Most people are going to get squeezed out, which is great for the people that do survive this, what's coming in the next 2-3 years. There's going to be a shift. That's what makes this country great. Whatever goes up comes down. Weeds out the weak, right? I mean, we've had a long run where anybody could be a mortgage broker, anybody could be a realtor. We've seen this before in 2007, 2008. Things shifted. All the weak got eliminated. They left the business. And the ones that survived, we did better than we've ever done. So if a shift does come, I'm not scared. I'm actually excited for the shift. It's going to get rid of all the weak competition. You guys are going to see a lot of your competitors are going to go by the wayside. They're going to close up shop, especially if they were running real skinny. If their expenses were, hand in hand, if they weren't living below their means, if they were out there perping, acting like, they're multimillionaires, and all of a sudden they get squeezed and that market shifts, you're going to see things shift real quick. And your competition's going to go by the wayside. Only the strong is going to survive. So it hasn't happened yet. Things are still good. The economy's still great. It's still a seller's market. But I wouldn't wait for that day to happen and you're sitting there realizing, dang, I don't have any more business. Like, you need to be out there right now hitting the streets, calling realtors, getting in front of realtors, setting up appointments, and figuring out, where your next deal is going to come from.
Great tip. I'll tell you, this is the market where you can build your business. We've been running hard for the last 3-4 years and things are great, but I promise you, you build your business in this market. In the last 37 years, Rocket, every single time we've gotten better, or we build onto what we've already built was during these times, during this market. So this is the market where you focus on training, where you focus on technology, where you focus on making sure you're sharpening your low skills, your realtor skills, and you talk about prospecting and hustle and consistency. This is the market for it. And I'll tell you, Mark talked about it. I always talk about it. Social media power. You have no idea how powerful this tool is, and it's hard. It's very hard. I have another video to shoot in a little bit. Like, this is not, and I'm sure you do that all day. It's not easy, but guess what? This is a free tool that's available to you. So hard work, 22 years, 22 seasons. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but props to you, man. You've built something very, very, very special. You've built that reputation. I haven't had a conversation with anyone that don't, like, they're always like, Marksy's the man, Marksy, his team. They're powerful. They deliver. They own up to what they say they're going to deliver. And I love that about you. And you're very humble, and it's just a great, great human being overall, man. Thank you for coming onto the show.
I appreciate it, Mike.
Appreciate you. This was our first episode of Let's Dial It Up with Fawaz, and as always, let's dial it up.